We Americans are the sons and daughters of the Christian pilgrims that poured out from Europe's shores to baptize a new world in their ancient faith. Our ancestors were driven here by destiny, possessed by urgent and fiery conviction, by burning belief, devoted to their cause and their God.
We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That's, of course, the Declaration of Independence. It continues that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. The Declaration of Independence was a declaration that all people have the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It was a proposition. Here's the idea. We're going to start here. Every human gets life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's the only reason you have a government. Okay? And the government we are going to form, away from the British monarchy, is laid on the foundation of such principles. The principles of every human being gets life, liberty, and happiness. There is no mention here of ancestry or heritage. No mention here of the nation being a people that looks a certain way, has a certain ethnicity, or even a certain history. Okay? Now, I'll also remind you that someone named Abraham Lincoln said 77 years ago and talked about an American proposition. Talked about the proposition laid out here in the Declaration of Independence. And you're like, Brad, great. Thank you for the history lesson. We all appreciate it. Well, here is a little bit of what Senator Schmitt said in his speech.
If America was a universal proposition, then everything we inherited from our specific Western heritage had to be abolished. So the statues came down. The names are changed. Yesterday's heroes become today's villains. The story of the nation has to be rewritten to align America to its true creed. On the right, the Continental Army soldiers dying of frostbite at Valley Forge, the pilgrims struggling to survive in the hard winter soil of Plymouth, the pioneers striking out from Missouri for the wild and dangerous frontier, the outnumbered Kentucky settlers repelling wave after wave of Indian war band attacks from beyond the stockade walls. All of them will be astonished to hear that they were only fighting for a proposition. They believed they were fighting for a nation, a homeland for themselves and their descendants. They fought, they bled, they struggled, they died for us. They built this country for us. America, in all its glory, is their gift to us, handed down across the generations. It belongs to us. It's our birthright. It's our heritage, our destiny. If America is everything and everyone, then it is nothing and no one at all.
Now, Senator Schmitt is, of course, rewriting history here. He is going directly against the Declaration of Independence and what Abraham Lincoln said in his famous speech. There are many other examples I could give. But the implications of what he's saying are bleak and rather dire in terms of the country as it appears today and the possibility that we might be a pluralist democracy, a multi-ethnic, multi-racial, multi-religious democracy. Joshua Shane's writing at Slate put it this way: the implications of this vision are serious. This is a repudiation of our Constitution and the core of a national identity that includes all its citizens. It means that to be American is not about citizenship at all. What is an American, Schmitt asked? It is a white person. America is a white homeland that organically binds together white people of the past, present, and future. And its policies must be guided for their benefit if they are to succeed. Non-white people do appear in this vision, but only as the usurpers of our white nation and its resources. They are the, quote, Indians, whom he portrays as savages, who succumb to the superior ability of their white destroyers. They are Barack Obama and his supporters, who scorned the white patriots for remembering a country, quote, that once belonged to them. They are the people tearing down the Confederate statues and removing Confederate names from buildings, streets, and forts, turning yesterday's heroes into today's villains. They are the people behind the George Floyd riots, as he describes them. Anarchists who, quote, looted and defaced and tore down statues and monuments all across the country. His vision of the United States is one that says this place is not about an inalienable right of freedom, life, liberty, happiness for all people. That it is not a promise of equality or representation. That this place that was supposed to be an experiment, a democratic experiment, a place that was audacious in what it was attempting, is in fact nothing of the sort. The United States is simply a place that has a certain people, a certain homeland, a certain ancestry, a certain ethnicity. And if you listen to the entire speech, it's very clear that that is all done by people of European heritage. Now, he goes on to say that his own ancestors came in 1840. Now, what a lot of people have pointed out in the wake of this is that his history is kind of bad here, because when folks were coming in the 1840s, not only was that a long time after the American Revolution, that was not the time of Plymouth and the Massachusetts Bay Colony. It was certain parts of Europe. They were not considered Americans because many people, in prejudicial and disgusting ways, said that they were not really white or not really Christian. Schmitt himself is Catholic. We've talked a long time on this show about the anti-Catholic bias shown to all kinds of Europeans. Italians, Irish, Polish. There's a long history of white nationalism in this country, and that history does two things. A, it excludes people like him. He would not have been white or Christian enough for most of the white nationalists in American history. And two, the White Nationalism Project does exactly what it does to Schmitt. It excludes. It says you can only be a real American if. It's only a place for these people. That if we're going to be anything, we have to go back to our ancestry and our destiny. What makes us exceptional. This is how he puts it later in the speech.
We know that's not true. America is not a universal nation. It is something distinctive, unique, and real, unlike any other place or people in the history of mankind. Western civilization was defined by its restless, relentless, dynamic spirit, a drive to create, explore, and discover that spurred the West to the heights of political, intellectual, and technological achievement unmatched by any civilization in human history. America was settled, founded, and built by the most adventurous, the most courageous, the most curious and innovative and risk-taking sons and daughters of the West. Our country is, in this important sense, the most essential Western nation. For our settlers' ancestors, the American frontier stretched out as the horizon of infinite possibility.
Now, I don't think I have to tell any of you this, but I'll just say it anyway. The United States has never been what he's claiming it is. It has never, ever been a homogeneous white place. There has always been a pluralistic mosaic of in the United States population. There were millions of people who were forcibly brought to the United States from Africa. Many African Americans, Native Americans, and others were enlisted in building the nation, whether that is the White House, whether that is the railroads that connected the continent, whether that is any number of things. This has always been a place that has been more diverse than white nationalists like him would like to admit. Here's how Jahan Jones says it at MSNBC. The truth is that the U.S. has never been the homogeneous white European utopia Schmitt's speech envisions. Since day one, the United States has not achieved lasting progress without contributions from the non-European immigrants whose Americanness the freshman senator from Missouri sees fit to question. And in fact, when the senator's family arrived here in the 1840s, very soon thereafter, there were Chinese immigrants arriving on the West Coast, those who were part of the gold rush, those who were part of building the railroads, those who were excluded in the 1880s by law. Like very close to when Schmitt's own family becomes quote unquote American, there are Chinese folks on the West Coast trying to claim their part of the United States, working hard on one of the most amazing engineering feats in the history of the country, but one he seems to have forgotten when he lists all the ways that the United States is exceptional. Now, just for posterity's sake, he needed to pepper in a little Christian nationalism to his white nationalism, and so here it is.
We Americans are the sons and daughters of the Christian pilgrims that poured out from Europe's shores to baptize a new world in their ancient faith. Our ancestors were driven here by destiny, possessed by urgent and fiery conviction, by burning belief, devoted to their cause and their God.
We Americans are the sons and daughters of the Christian pilgrims that poured out from Europe's shores to baptize a new world. So what if you're not a Christian? What if you're not somebody who has Christians in their ancestry? What if you're somebody who doesn't see their lineage coming from Europe's shores, but from other shores, from Africa's, from Asia's, from a southern border that has moved many times because of war and land appropriation? According to Schmitt, you're not an American if that's true. You don't fit the vision of what it means to be somebody who is a citizen in this country. You're an interloper. You are something else. And what Schmitt is saying here is something that I've highlighted on the show before, but I'll just say it again. Stephen Wolfe is a political theorist and a Christian nationalist. He wrote a book called The Case for Christian Nationalism. And he says in a recent speech that white Protestants are not immigrants to this country, that they are settlers of this country, and therefore they are the Native Americans. There was no America, quote unquote, before them, and so they are the ones who began the nation, despite the fact that there were, of course, people here before those white Europeans arrived. Now, Schmitt doesn't even fit Stephen Wolfe's definition. He is a Catholic, somebody whose family came in the mid-1800s, not the mid-1600s. But nonetheless, Schmitt is hoping he can get into the party, that he, a latecomer to the European part of the American puzzle, at least in some historical sense, is hoping he still can get a wristband to the MVP area, that he can be one of the real ones, while everybody else stands outside, waits in line, and will never be assimilated into what he thinks of as the United States.